Okay, so is everybody able to see the screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Okay, so before we start the PPT, I just want to give a gist of chapter 2 based on the purport of Srila Prabhupada. So actually the second chapter, it explains how devotion begins and grows naturally in the heart. So Srila Rupa Goswami tells us that devotional service has three stages. So first is practice, then ecstasy, and finally pure love of God. See, just like in education, in our studies, we have what? First school, then college, then masters, right? So devotion also, it develops gradually. So today in this chapter, it mainly explains the first stage. What is that? Devotional service in practice, that is called sadhana bhakti. So Prabhupada, he tells us an important truth here. See, devotional service, it does not begin suddenly or accidentally. It is a continuation from our previous lives. Even if someone practiced a little devotion earlier and then stopped, nothing is lost. So, in the next life, the soul continues from where it left off. Okay, so that is the mercy of bhakti. And even if there is no previous practice, just hearing from a pure devotee can awaken devotion in the heart. Okay, so just that one contact with that pure devotee can change everything. We must have seen like some people, they like reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam naturally. You don't have to force them. See, for them, devotional life becomes easy. But for others, they mainly depend on argument and speculation. Okay, but arguments never give final truth. Like the Gnanis, we know that they speculate. See, they read the Vedas and the Upanishads on their own, and they don't have guru, so they try to speculate on their own. Oh, God could be like this could be like this. So how many ever arguments and speculations we do, they never give us the final truth. We can just keep on arguing, but we can never get the final truth, because one argument cancels another, right? One may argue that this is the truth, other may come and say no, 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 this is the truth. So the argument will go on. So one argument will go on with the other, so we can never reach the final truth. So Bhagavatam advises us not to depend on logic alone, but to follow the path shown by realized authorities, that is our acharyas who come in parampara, in disciplic succession. Now, what does this practice mean? See, practice means what? Practice means using our senses. See, we already use our eyes, ears, tongue, hands, and mind all the time. We keep on using. But for what purpose? Material purposes. So, sadhana bhakti means using these same senses in the service of Krishna. So we should not think this is artificial. Actually, serving the Lord is not artificial, it is natural. See, just like a child already has the ability to walk. Okay, a small baby, it has the innate ability to walk. Practice only awakens it, right? The soul already has love for Krishna, but it is dormant. It is in sleeping stage. Okay. See, you see, tribal people also, when they see something wonderful in nature, naturally they offer respect. Okay. So, this shows devotion is already there in the soul. But because of material contamination, it is covered. So, when it is purified, that same consciousness becomes Krishna consciousness. Okay, so the conditioned soul in the purport, they describe, Prabhupada says, the conditioned soul is described as mad not mentally insane, but spiritually confused. Okay, so we keep doing activities that cause our own suffering again and again. Okay, actually, originally the soul is joyful, eternal, and full of knowledge. It is Satchidananda, right? Like Krishna, we are also Satchidananda, but Krishna, he's 100% Satchidananda. Maybe we are at least 1% Satchidananda, because we are children of Krishna. We have the same qualities, but not in the same amount, not same quantity as Krishna, but minute quantities. Okay, so even we are, the soul is Sat Chit Ananda. It is joyful, eternal, and full of knowledge. But because of doing wrong actions, vikarma, we forgot this. We forgot our nature. So sadhana bhakti is like a treatment. See, just like as a psychiatrist, he gives rules to cure mental illness, right? So, devotional rules cure spiritual madness. So, what are those rules? Rising early in the morning, worshipping the deity, offering obeisances, avoiding sinful activities. So, these may initially look like punishments, okay, but these are not punishments, they are like medicine. Okay, Narada Muni gives us a very simple instruction. Fix your mind on Krishna by any means. Okay, that is what Narada Muni is saying. Fix your mind on Krishna by hook or by crook, by any means. So that is Krishna consciousness. How this happens depends on the guidance from the spiritual master. The guru finds practical ways to help the disciple remember Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya, he gave us the easiest method. What is that? Chanting Hare Krishna. Chanting immediately connects the mind to Krishna. So that is why it is the heart of sadhana bhakti. Whether one is like King Ambarish Maharaj or an ordinary person today, if the mind is fixed on Krishna, progress is guaranteed. Okay, so now this sadhana, this practice or sadhana bhakti has two modes. Okay, in sadhana bhakti, there are two types. At first one is what? Devotion done by rules. Okay, devotion which is followed by rules and regulations. Okay, we may not feel attachment yet, but we follow all these rules and regulations because Guru and Shastras say so. So this is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay, where we follow rules and regulations. Sadhana done by following rules and regulations on the basis of Guru and Shastra is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay, so there is no argument here, just obedience. We just listen to our Guru and Shastra, we follow the rules and regulations, and we do bhakti. Okay, so like this, if you practice Vaidhi Bhakti, what happens later? Something beautiful happens. What happens? Attachment awakens. Then service is no longer forced, it becomes joyful and spontaneous. See, now, like, we have to forcefully get up in the morning. See, getting up in the morning is such a big pain for us now, especially in winter. We feel like just tucking ourselves under our woolen blankets and don't feel like getting up, right? So it feels like a pain. But once that attachment awakens, you just wait. You're so eager. You just wait for Mangalarati. Oh, when will it be morning? When will I attend Mangalarati? When will I do my chanting? So it becomes attractive, it becomes an attachment. It's no longer forced, it becomes joyful and spontaneous. One wants to decorate, one feels like decorating the deity, serve nicely, think new ways to please Krishna. Okay, so this is still practice, but it is driven by love. So this is called second type of bhakti under sadhana, Raghanuga sadhana bhakti. Okay, so Sukadev Goswami teaches King Parikshit something very powerful. See, the king had only 7 days. See, Parikshit Maharaj had only 7 days to live and was afraid of death, just like all of us. Deep inside, we have fear of death, right? So, like that, even Parikshit Maharaj had fear. So, Sukadev Goswami says to Parikshit Maharaj, if you want to be fearless, immediately begin hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna, not demigods. Only Krishna, not any name. Krishna only, because he is the supreme personality of Godhead, the super soul in everyone's heart. He is the supreme controller. Krishna promises in the Gita that his devotee is never vanquished. See, others may lose this rare human life and fall back into the cycle of birth and death. Okay, so what is the main principle we have to remember? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Okay, we must always remember this principle. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Okay, so this is for everybody, be it a brahmachari or a grihastha, sannyasi, or a beginner. It applies to everybody. So all other rules are like secondary to this one. So this is the main rule. This is the main rule. All others are connected to this main rules. Okay. And in our society, we have different roles. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Okay. So these divisions are naturally based on qualities. How does Prabhupada compare like different parts of the body? Right? So, but the goal of every role is the same. Whether he is a Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, but the goal of everyone is the same. It is to satisfy Krishna. See, a Brahmana, he preaches, a Kshatriya, he protects, a Vaishya, he produces grains or whatever and distributes. A Shudra, he assists all the above three. So, when everyone does their duty for Krishna, society becomes harmonious. But when people forget Krishna, the same society collapses. This is exactly what we see in Kali Yuga. Okay, Krishna says to Uddhava that any activity, scriptural or ordinary, if done for Krishna, it brings happiness in this life and the next. So that is the secret we have to remember. See, any activity that we do for ourselves, for our sense gratification, it is binding because it has karma, good karma or bad karma. See, any kind of karma binds us and brings us back to this material world because we have to suffer or enjoy the reactions. But if we do anything to please Krishna, that is akarma, there is no karma. Okay, when we do any activity for Krishna, it brings us happiness in this life and in the next life. So that is what we have to understand. That is the secret. So therefore, the Krishna conscious movement is very practical. See, it does not demand that everybody change their external position. No, you don't have to change anything. Do what you're doing, do your duties as it is, but what we have to do, just add Krishna to your life. See, it's like we are all zeros. How many ever zeros you put, it has no value, but to the zeros, if you add one, there's a lot of value. If you add one to two zeros, it becomes 100. To three zeros, it becomes 1,000. The value keeps increasing. So that one is Krishna. So if we add Krishna to our life, it adds a lot of value. Okay, so just add Krishna to your life. Offer the results of your work to Him. Just do your duty to your fullest, to your 100%, and leave the results to Krishna. Okay, that alone can turn the world into Vaikuntha. See, when devotional service is practiced sincerely under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, it gradually leads from rules to attachment. That is from Vaidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, and finally to pure love of God. That is Bhava and then Prema. Okay, so that is the beauty of Bhakti. It is simple, it is natural, and it is meant for everyone. Okay, so this is chapter 2, the gist of chapter 2 given by Prabhupada. Okay, so here we see in the PPT, sadhana bhakti. There are three types of bhakti. Sadhana, we discussed all this, just a thing. Sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. And when we do sadhana bhakti, we were described in the earlier chapters, chapter 1, the characteristics of devotional service. There are 6, right? So when we do sadhana bhakti, what is it that the result that we get? Kleshagni. When we do sadhana bhakti, kleshagni means what? The material distress is removed, and shubhada means it brings us auspiciousness. So when we do devotional service or sadhana bhakti, kleshagni, it removes all our material distress. Shubhada, it brings auspiciousness. Then after a sadhana bhakti comes bhava bhakti. So in bhava bhakti, the stage moksha laghutakrit and sudurlabha means bhava bhakti is sudurlabha. It is very rare. Okay, to come to the bhava stage is very rare, and it is moksha laghutakrit. Moksha means liberation. So it minimizes liberation. So devotees, they don't give importance to liberation. We have 5 kinds of liberation, right? Last class we discussed. So those 5 kinds of liberation, devotee doesn't even care for them. He looks for the topmost. What is that? He looks love of Krishna, right? He wants only prema. Okay. So moksha laghutakrit is that. Okay. After bhava comes prema, the highest stage, the love, ultimate. Bhava is ecstasy. Prema is love, right? The highest, topmost. So in prema, we have Sandrananda Visheshatma. Sandra means Ananda means bliss. Sandra means the topmost bliss. Sandrananda Visheshatma. So topmost bliss. And Sri Krishna Akarshini. So that devotional service in prema attracts Krishna. It's the topmost, right? Sri Krishna Akarshini. It attracts Krishna also. Okay. So we saw all this sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice. So practice means employing our mind and senses in practical devotional service. Practice is there to invoke consciousness which is innate, already there and purified. So prescribed methods, and we saw all this vikarma engaged in asat, chit and nirananda. Therefore, engage in sadhana bhakti. There is prescription to cure, and duty of acharya is to find ways to fix disciples' mind on Krishna, and essence of sadhana, somehow fix the mind. Okay, and mold our activities so that we always remember Krishna. And we saw how it applies to all varnas and ashramas. Okay, sadhana bhakti is divided into Vaidhi and Raganuga, and we saw what Vaidhi is and what Raganuga is. Okay, so this is the end of chapter 2. We finished. Okay, this is the last slide. Now let's go to chapter 3. Okay, so this is chapter 3. So before we enter, chapter 3 is, it explains who becomes qualified for devotional service and how devotion gradually becomes pure. Okay, so we'll see eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotional service, and how is it in the beginning, and advancing in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So what is the eligibility? Is knowledge and renunciation required? Grades of eligibility to advance? Varieties of neophyte devotee? Who is the best of these? impediments to advancement in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and what is the most important need. Okay, so let's before we go, let's try to understand the gist of chapter 3. Okay, so Srila Rupa Goswami first tells us something very hopeful. See, a person may come in contact with great devotees, Mahatmas, who are fully engaged in serving Krishna. By that association, a small attraction for Krishna may arise in our heart. At the same time, that person may still be attached to material enjoyment, work, family life, and may not be ready for renunciation at all. Okay, so he has come in he's come in contact with the Mahatma, and he's doing devotional service, but not necessary that he has given up all material desires, family, everything. Okay, still he is continuing, he is doing both. Still, if that attraction to Krishna is genuine and steady, such a person is already eligible for devotional service. See, if he's genuine and steady, if he's sincere, even though he's having all these attachments, he is a correct person. He is an eligible person for devotional service because he's sincere, right? Because initially we can't become pure, right? Right? That sincerity is important for us. So perfection is not required in the beginning. Attraction is enough. Whether we have that greed to do devotional service, that attraction is there. That is enough initially. Okay, we need not be perfect. This attraction itself is a sign of great fortune. See, having this attraction for devotional service itself is a great fortune. Okay, so Lord Chaitanya explains that only very fortunate souls receive the seed of devotion, and that fortune comes by the combined mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master. So Krishna confirms this to Uddhava, saying that it is only by rare good fortune that someone becomes attracted to Krishna. Even if such a person is not fully detached from material life or not fully fixed in devotion, bhakti acts very quickly. Okay, so devotional service is powerful. It does not wait for perfection. Okay, Rupa Goswami explains that devotees are generally of three levels depending on faith, understanding, and steadiness. See, that's what they will. Three classes we you can see in the PPT, right? That is what we'll discuss now. First is like a first class devotee or Uttama Adhikari is one who understands the scriptures and can explain devotional conclusions using Shastra. So, Uttama Adhikari is like he knows everything. He knows the Shastras by heart. He knows, he can quote and he can, if anybody is asking for proof, he can say, yeah, here in the Shastra this is said, that is why this is true. So, he can quote and he can say everything. So, he knows with full clarity that the goal of life is loving service to Krishna and that Krishna alone is the supreme object of worship. Okay, such a devotee, he strictly follows the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master and scriptures without deviation. His faith is firm because it is supported by realization, because he has realized all that from the scriptures. Through the scriptures, he understands everything. So, and he does not waste time in dry speculation. He does not go into these arguments. He directly takes conclusions from the Shastras, that's all. Okay. So, because of his this maturity, he can guide others, and he can even become a spiritual master. Okay, this is the Uttama Adhikari. He is a first class devotee. Okay. Next is second class devotee or Madhyama. Okay, Madhyama Adhikari, he may not be an expert in scriptural arguments, but his faith is strong. See, he may not, if somebody asks for proof from the Shastras, he may not be able to tell quote from this Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita. But he has firm faith. His faith is strong. Okay, even if someone challenges him philosophically, he does not become doubtful within his heart. He is convinced that Krishna is the supreme Lord and is the supreme personality of Godhead, and that devotional service is the right path. Okay, he knows that. So he is Madhyama. Now, last third class devotee is Kanishta. Okay, Kanishta Adhikari. He has weak faith. He does not properly understand scriptural conclusions because he's a neophyte. He has just newly come. And his faith can be shaken. Anybody can shake his faith. They can move him from one path to another. Just he can be shaken by arguments or opposing opinions. Why? Because his foundation is not strong. He's easily influenced. Okay, he gets attracted by material needs, material things, sense gratification. He easily gets diverted and he can move away from bhakti. Okay, so these are the three types of devotees. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita further explains that neophyte devotees, see in the Kanishta Adhikari, there are four types who come to Krishna for four reasons. We've read in Bhagavad Gita. Can anybody tell who are the people who come to Krishna? The pious people who come to Krishna? Does anybody remember them?
Yes.
Yeah, please, Mataji.
The one who is distressed, one who is seeking wealth, one who is inquisitive, and one who is wants the knowledge of the interest in knowledge of bhakti.
Hari Bol. Yes, perfect, Mataji. Hari Bol. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mataji. So, all these four, the one who is distressed, one who wants wealth, one who is inquisitive, and one who wants knowledge about God. Okay, see, all these four are considered pious. Why? Because without piety, they cannot even approach Krishna. At least the good thing they have done is they are approaching Krishna because they have that piety, they are able to approach Krishna. So these people go to God for help. So one goes to God for help, give me relief, give me wealth. Other inquisitive, right? He wants answers. Other for understanding God. Okay, so though their motivations may be mixed, but still mixed in the sense they are material and the material, okay, not pure devotional service, so they are still accepted by Krishna. See, we see many examples like in the PPT, you see, right? Dhruva Maharaj, he came to Krishna. Why? He wanted a kingdom like his grandfather Brahma, but through devotion he became purified and he rejected material benedictions. And on the right hand side, we can see Gajendra. He was in distress. He prayed to Lord Vishnu and he became a pure devotee. Right? The four Kumaras, they were wise. The four Kumaras were Gnanis, right? And what happened? They became attracted to devotion just by smelling the tulsi at the Lord's lotus feet. And the sages of Naimisharanya were inquisitive, right? And by associating with Suta Goswami, they became pure devotees. So, what does this show? This shows that association with pure devotees elevates anyone regardless of their starting point. Okay, it can change if just by associating with a pure devotee, you also become a devotee. Okay, whatever your starting point may be. And among these four types, Krishna says that the wise person, that is Ajnani, is very dear to him. Why? Because the Jnani does not approach Krishna for material gain or relief. Agnani, like his attraction is closer to love. And what he does through study of Shastra, he understands that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And after many lifetimes, when one becomes truly wise, he surrenders to Vasudeva, understanding that Krishna is the cause of all causes. And such a person, he knows that I'm spirit soul, I'm not this body, and Krishna is the supreme spirit. Okay, and therefore his relationship is eternal and natural. So, this understanding is very important. See, a person who is free from the bodily concept of life becomes eligible for pure devotional service. Okay, so we should know that we are no longer this body, we are a spirit soul. So, that is the first criteria for us to enter into pure devotional service. After Brahman realization, means after we realize that we are the soul, then when one becomes peaceful, free from material anxiety, and sees all living beings equally, then devotional service actually begins. When we see Paramatma is there in all the living beings, so he considers, be it a dog eater, be it an elephant, be it a dog, be it a Brahmana, he sees all living beings equally. Okay, so that is when the devotional service actually begins. Here, Srila Rupa Goswami explains the three kinds of happinesses. See, we've seen all this, right? Advancement begins by association with pure devotees and everything. See, when here all the Americans they are associating with Prabhupada. Okay, so here Rupa Goswami is explaining three kinds of happinesses again. Material happiness. What are the anybody? What are the three kinds of happinesses? We've discussed this earlier also.
One is material.
Yes, Mataji, correct, perfect.
Second one is I can't remember.
No problem, Mataji. It is Brahman happiness, and the last one is devotional happiness. Brahman means liberation, getting liberated, and last one is devotional happiness. When the happiness that we get from when we do devotional service. Okay, so as long as someone is affected by material desires, either enjoyment means bhukti or liberation means mukti, bhukti or mukti, he cannot taste pure devotional happiness. Okay, you are into material sense gratification, bhukti, or liberation, mukti, you cannot taste pure devotional happiness. See, impersonalists or the Mayavadis, they aim to become one with Brahman. Okay, that is their goal. They want to merge into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti and they want to become one with God. Why? Because they cannot appreciate loving exchange with the Supreme Person. Because there's these jnanis or these Mayavadis or these impersonalists, they are scared of activity. So that is the reason, right? Why they give up material life and they come into the forest, right? Why is because if they stay in the material world, definitely they'll have to do some activity. If you do some activity, there'll be karma, good or bad karma, because of which you'll have to still stay in this material. You will have to stay in this material world, and which they don't want because it is a place of pain and suffering. Okay, so that's where they come into the forest, and now they are bewildered. Oh no, Again, after liberation also, if we go and we have to serve the Lord, who is a person, means again some activity, again there will be karma. So they get scared with that concept. So that's why they imagine, they speculate, they say that God, there is no person, no form for God. He has no form. So there is, if God, there is no form to the God, there is no activity. You don't have to do any service, right? So that they say, we just want to merge with the Lord, with the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, who is light. Okay, so that's why they cannot appreciate this loving exchange with the Supreme Person. So this desire to merge is actually an extension of material thinking. That's what we said, right? Materially, they think they still think that even this, when they go to the spiritual world also, there'll be karma. So they think like that. That's why they don't want to have this exchange after liberation. Okay, so it's just an extension of the material thinking. And in the material world, everyone wants to be the greatest. See, everybody, they want to think that I am the greatest. So when this idea is extended infinitely, when everything, I mean, like infinitely, one wants to become one with God. Okay, so actually, what is real spiritual life? See, real spiritual life means understanding one's constitutional position. The soul is finite, Krishna is infinite. The soul's happiness lies not in becoming God. Okay, the happiness that the impersonalists get when they merge into God is not the fullest happiness. The full happiness we get in serving God with love. Because how long can you just merge into the impersonal light, and how long can you meditate on light? It's practically not possible, right? So that's why they again fall back into this material world, and that's why they come back and they do all these social activities like building schools, colleges, hospitals, and they come back and they do all these material activities again. Okay?
May I ask a question, please?
Yes, Mataji, please.
When you say that first stage is the material happiness, and the second is the Brahman, and third is
Devotional service.
devotional service, are you also saying that, or am I totally wrong in saying that the material can be associated with the first stage, which is Brahman, which you described, and the second stage,
Mataji,
Paramatma, and the third as Bhagwan. Is that the same thing or something different?
no, Mataji, the material happiness is the happiness that we get with the fruitive activities.
Okay, okay. Mm.
Yeah, that is first material. We have all many material desires. So those, Mataji, maybe whatever desire, it could be like you would like to eat this food, or you an extension of the fruitive activities. You perform yagna to go to heavenly planets. So those are like material desires, fruitive activities. So that is the first stage. And the second one is Brahman happiness. Liberation is when you want to come out of this material world.
Right.
We realize, we understand that this material world is a place of suffering, and we want to come out of this material world. And we these are this is like because they understand that this material world is a place of suffering, they want to come out. It's not that out of love of Krishna or love of God that they want to come out of this material world and do any service. It is just that they get vexed up. I mean, like they're what do you say, they've undergone so much pain and stress in this material world, difficulties in this material world, that they don't want to return to this material world. So they want to be liberated and go back and merge into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. That is impersonal Brahman. Okay, so that is the second stage of happiness. And the third is when you do loving devotional service to the Lord, where there is reciprocation. In the second stage, in impersonal Brahman, there is no reciprocation at all. Okay, and third stage, when when there is a relationship, when you give and take, that exchange is good. See, when in a relationship you want to be loved, and you expect somebody to love you, and you want to love somebody. So when that exchange is there, that is the highest happiness. So these three happinesses are discussed here, Mataji.
Thank you.
Is it clear, Mataji, or is it like
So,
Hare Krishna?
sorry,
Mataji,
what?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry. What was the question?
No, you
Was-
asked if all these three are related to impersonal Brahman and Paramatma and Bhagavan, Mataji.
Right, yeah, which is totally a different thing you were talking.
Yeah, it's not totally a different thing, Mataji. The way we understand for this concept is different, Mataji. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the material happiness is the basic material happiness that we all undergo, Mataji. Like the comforts, whatever we want, nice, rich food, a nice, comfortable house. So all these are material desires, fruitive activities, right? Where we expect everything for ourselves. Fruitive activities means we want everything for ourselves, for our enjoyment. So where we do something so that we get something in gain, we get something back, like that. And second is like impersonal Brahman, where we want liberation, where we know that this material world is a place of distress, difficulties, suffering. Okay, we want liberation. So we want to get out of this material world. So to get out of this material world means liberation and go back into the and merge into impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Why do they want to merge in impersonal Brahma Jyoti? Because they don't want activity. These people, they don't want activity. Means activity means, see, even if we people are doing some activity, Mataji, it means there will be a good or a bad to that activity. So karma is there for sure. So they fear karma, these people, because they fear karma. I mean, karma means good or bad activity, because of which we have to come back and enjoy or suffer in the material world, those activities. So that's why they don't want to do any activity. That is why they renounce the material world, and they don't take up any responsibility. They come into the forest and they start meditating on this impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Okay, one after they die, they want to get liberation by merging into the impersonal Brahman. So, which is better than material happiness? See, material happiness is on the bodily platform. At least this impersonal Brahman is on the platform of soul. They understand that when they read the Vedas and the Upanishads, they understand that they're on the platform of soul. Okay, and they merge into this impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Okay, to get happiness on the platform of soul. So that is second happiness. And the last and the highest happiness is when you do devotional service to Krishna, right? He is like where that relationship happens. See, when you serve, when you, for example, a mother and a daughter, like a daughter, when a small daughter, when she goes to school, also a mother, when she sees the daughter's shoes, she remembers her, right? Because she has done so much service, loving service to her, even after she's gone to school, seeing her small shoes, she remembers her. It's that love. So that love is there when that relationship is there, when that devotional service, when that service is there, it becomes more. Even though you're not there, you still remember them. So that is the highest happiness. So that's why they say the material happiness is the least happiness, and then Brahmananda happiness, and then highest is devotional service happiness, Mataji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay. Okay. So the soul's happiness does not lie in becoming God, becoming one with God, but in serving God with love. So as long as one wants to enjoy separately, either materially or spiritually, he cannot relish bhakti. Okay, so Rupa Goswami, he compares desires for bhukti and mukti to being haunted by ghosts. Why? See, a person who's haunted by ghosts, he doesn't know how he's behaving, what he's talking, what he's doing, he does not understand. So, like that, this bhukti and mukti are like a hindrance to bhakti. Okay, they stop the soul from attaining love of God. Okay, so that's why they're compared to ghosts, haunted by ghosts. So, as long as these desires of bhukti and mukti are there, the sweet taste of devotion is blocked. Okay, so if you want complete devotional taste, that love of Krishna, we should have no tinge of bhukti and mukti. So, therefore, a pure devotee, he does not care for liberation. Lord Chaitanya himself prayed that he did not want wealth, followers, beauty, or even liberation. What did he want? Only unflinching devotion, birth after birth. Okay, just wanted to serve the Lord wherever, whatever his position is, only he wanted unflinching devotion, birth after birth. He's not even saying, I don't want birth. Give me whatever birth you want, wherever you want, however you want. But one thing I want, unflinching devotion, birth after birth. Okay, pure devotees are so absorbed in Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes that liberation comes automatically, waiting to serve them. Okay, I think all this is given in the. Yeah, here, see, you can see, right, the examples, impediments to advancement in VSB. We said the first point, the devotees refuse all liberation and want service, and impersonalists cannot approach. Second point is impersonalists cannot approach your lotus feet. So, how can fruitative workers? Okay, we saw example of Dhruva Maharaj, right? And third one we saw, third point, Rupa Goswami compares with ghosts and witches. We saw that. And the fourth point is Bilva Mangal Thakur. What does he say? I reject liberation who is standing at my door with folded hands. So actually, when we do devotional service, why do we chant the Hare Krishna mantra? Not for liberation from this material world. We chant so that we get love of Krishna. And when we chant, what is the byproduct besides love that we get? That is liberation. But liberation is not our main goal. Other people, they chant for liberation. Other sampradayas or other we see so many social religions, right? They practice. So they do it for liberation. But this Hare Krishna mantra is very special. That's why it is called Maha Mantra. It is not just for liberation. This mantra can give us love of Krishna. This liberation devotees don't even care about. Like Bilva Mangal Thakur, see, he's saying, it just stands with folded hands at my door. It's begging, saying, please accept me, please accept me. But devotees don't even look at liberation. They only want love of Krishna. Okay? And Uddhava also, he says, see, Uddhava also says that for devotees engaged in loving service, There is nothing worth gaining from religiosity, wealth, sense enjoyment, or liberation. What is it? Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. They don't want even all these. Those who are doing loving devotional service, they are not interested in dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So even though these come easily come, devotees do not care for them. Okay, and the sixth point we saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said what? I don't want wealth, followers, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va, jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmanishware, bhavatat bhaktir ahaituki tvai. Give me just bhakti birth after birth. I don't want all these. I don't want beautiful wife, wealth, followers, all these I don't want. Just give me bhakti, birth after birth. Okay. And King Dhruva, he finally declares that the happiness devotees get by meditating on Krishna's lotus feet is completely unreachable by impersonalists. He says that impersonalists cannot understand. What about materialistic people? They forget. That's what Dhruva Maharaj is saying. See, when you meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna, King Dhruva is telling it is not understandable even by impersonalists. If the impersonalists themselves cannot understand, how will the materialistic people, common materialistic people, understand? Dhruva is telling. Okay, and Lord Kapila also says, my devotees are attracted to my beauty form. Um, So Kapil Dev explains that such devotees do not desire liberation, yet he personally gives them eternal association in his abode. See, pure devotees, what Kapil Dev is saying, are so absorbed in Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastime that liberation comes to them automatically and it waits at their door to serve them. And Kapiladeva explains that such devotees do not desire liberation, but he personally gives them eternal association in his abode. Okay? So they don't want liberation, but still the Lord, he gives them eternal association in his abode. Okay? So this is the thing. So, what do we understand? The eligibility for devotion does not depend on external renunciation. It's not that you leave all your responsibilities in the material world and you run away to the forest. So, it does not depend on external renunciation or scholarship. It's not on your intelligence or whether you're perfect. Okay, it depends on attraction to Krishna, association with devotees, and freedom from selfish desire. Okay, when devotion becomes pure, it eclipses all other forms of happiness. Okay, so we should never be duplicitous in our bhakti. That's why Prabhupada says bhakti is simple for the simple, complicated for the complicated. So actually, bhakti is very simple. That's why Prabhupada says simple living, high thinking. Don't complicate your life. Don't think, complicate your mind. Be always simple. Try to live simple and be simple. Bhakti will also be simple. Okay. So we saw all this also, right? So varieties of neophyte devotees, distress, need money, and we saw all the examples also. Who is the best? We saw the Gnani is the best, right? And we saw the impediments also. And what is the most important need? See, to begin why the sadhana bhakti, we saw that we need the mercy of Krishna and Guru, okay, and devotees. So, and to advance in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, maturing of our knowledge and faith in scriptures. So, we read the scriptures, we have faith in scriptures, we don't speculate. We, whatever our gurus say and our shastras say, we totally put our faith in them. Okay, practice pure devotional service, liberation from bodily concept and all desires abandon, especially bhukti and mukti. Pure devotional service means which is free from bhukti and mukti. Mukti means liberation, bhukti means material sense gratification. Should be free from all that. We discussed that also. Okay, so we finished everything practically. And we saw Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishta, all that we saw, right? We saw the eligibility is knowledge and renunciation needed. We saw it's no. Okay. So everything we've covered practically. So with this, we complete chapter 3 also. So next week, we'll try to take up chapter 4 and 5 together. And kindly let me know if anybody has